Hello everyone, my name is Moji. You're watching a Bitcoin bubble news channel. They put themselves in a position where they could say what was a security and what wasn't. I thought there was a good reason why Bitcoin and Ethereum were dealt with as commodities instead of stocks. That's because when you call something a commodity, you can trade futures contracts on it. These contracts, as Leo Mellane from the CME explained, let you control the price. As of right now, the reason Bitcoin hasn't responded the way people thought it would after halving is that big players are shorting futures and buying the actual ETF. This is called mass arbitrage. That means that most of the money coming into those ETFs isn't really from people buying them. They're just trading to get the difference in price between the future and the spot. That was Mark Yusko telling you how the Bitcoin ETFs are being hacked, crypto family. And this is why Bitcoin's price might be going down right now. In this video, he talks about some new ideas he has had about Bitcoin, where he thinks it will go next, and the future of crypto. That's why I think you should read this all the way through. Kind of click that button to join. Every day we post new movies. Let's watch this clip and hear what Mark has to say. Like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or even Ethereum. I don't like Ethereum as money very much. In terms of a world computer, I like it. But Dash, Monero, and other similar things do have some cryptocurrency features. It's a non-fungible token, or NFT. Now, it's not a monkey JPEG, which is what most people think of. But I don't even like the word NFT, which stands for non-fungible token. It sounds good, though. One of a kind means non-fungible. A token is a record in a book. It's not a coin or anything. That's all it is in record on a ledger. A blockchain is just a chain of entries on a ledger. But blockchains are different because they are permanent and can't be changed. You can't get to them from one place like you can with a COBOL database or a Visa or MasterCard. They can turn it off if they want to. They could also keep all of our info if we want to store it in the cloud. We could also put our cash in the bank. It's written down, but it's the bank's money, right? It's no longer our money. That's what blockchains fix. They let us have things. With Web 1, you could only read. With Web 2, you could read and write, like putting things on the internet. Read, write, own is what Web 3 is. We can own things with blockchains. I think a better name for a non-fungible ticket is a digital property right. An entry in a journal is just proof that someone owns a piece of property. It might be a JPEG. It might be a word. It could be a check for stock. It might be a link. It could be any worth. It could be the Mona Lisa, not the real painting, but the right to own the painting. But that's what blockchains are good for in the end. And Eric Schmidt from Google really said it best. Not only did Satoshi Nakamoto create Bitcoin, but he also made it possible for people to make their own digital assets. What does that even mean? Take a look at it. You know about stocks, right? In the past, you and I would meet in New York at the Buttonwood tree, which is the big tree that is now the stock exchange. It was important that we were close to each other so that we could exchange stock certificates, pieces of paper, and banknotes. The real problem was that thieves in top hats, like the ones you might see in New York on the way to the Buttonwood tree, would steal our stuff. To keep you safe, the stock exchange built a building and told you to go inside, but you still had to get there. So they had a thought to say, you know what, when computers and the electronic age came along, put the bills in the bank and turn them into an electronic database of ones and zeros. Put your stock certificates in Dallas, Texas and DTC and give them these QCIPs, which are alphanumeric codes. Then you can change. In the old days, people would go to the stock exchange floor and trade in person. These days, it's only computers. There are almost no people there, but not any. Okay, that's fine. However, those stock papers must still be in Dallas, Texas. So why? Why not make one-of-a-kind digital goods that are entries in a blockchain ledger? That's the end of the wood age. We went from the analog age to the electronic age to the digital age. Everything in the world, including every stock, bond, currency, good, work of art, collectible car, bottle of wine, private business, and $700 trillion worth of assets will eventually have a place on a blockchain. Everyone will use blockchains to do their work, and people will buy and sell things in the digital world instead of the electric world. Most of the trouble with many utility tokens, though, is that they aren't really decentralized, right? They lead to computers in AWS or Azure. For me, on-chain only means on-chain. If I want to own something on-chain, it has to be on the chain itself. I think the best way to do that is to show proof of work. In the end, I think Bitcoin has a big advantage. It's like Lord of the Rings, one chain rules them all. Does that mean virtual machines aren't useful now? Not at all. That means I believe proof of stake and proof of past are not strong enough. Yes. Does that mean they have too much power in one place? Of course. How can that be fixed? More work on growth, more nodes and less centralization. But in the short term, yes, they are comparatively too centralized. Yes, so here's the problem with trying to time the yen implosion Kyle Bass has been trying for 15 years. Some people who lived before him also said, hey, when you get to 100% debt to GDP, you have to fall apart. It could be 150 though, it could be 180. It could be 220 though. The truth is that it's because of the yen carry trade. What is the yen carry trade? It's a carry trade if interest rates are 0% and anyone in the world can borrow money for free and buy anything with a return. So, the yen was the axe in the global carry trade for years. It was very interesting because other countries could have dropped their rates to 0, which they did in the end. That's why there was a time 3 years ago when the yen got stronger. That's not possible, right? Everything in this country is falling apart except the way of life. It is really, really nice to live there, especially if you already live in Tokyo. Food is great, you know. I really like apartments. It is a great place to live. Short version of the long tail once the Fed went back to punishing most people by raising rates, or should I say unpunishing savers? Because when rates go to 0, you punish savers and steal their money to give it to the rich, because they borrow everything. Once they changed their minds, the yen carry trade was back and has been the best deal ever since. So the difference is that you're right. A country with 226% of its GDP in debt should, in theory, fall apart. The yen should go through the roof, and it should be a really, bad time. The global carry trade is supported, by the way, so there is a never-ending need for yen. This is because fiat countries keep printing more money. Take a look at the race to the bottom. You don't want to say DXY, do you? Wow, the dollar is really strong right now. It's not, though. It's not as weak as the euro or the yen. When you compare it to the renminbi, it's not that strong. Because of the way people live, this world race to the bottom is unavoidable. Foresight is based on numbers. People aged 65 to 85 don't spend a lot of money. They save money and like having a steady income. So what we saw was Japan first, then Europe, then the US. For the next 7 years and more, 10,000 people in the US and Europe turn 65 every single day. And things will keep going that way. Just look at Japan 11 years ago to see what will happen in the US and Europe. So, they were at their best in 1989. In 2000, we reached our peak. After 11 years, their debt was lowered. The rating of us debt goes down. The same things keep happening. Last but not least, I believe the yen is a planned demolition, not an out-of-control demolition. And I believe the yen carry trade is once again the best, because it is still the only place with a 0 rate.